Hey there, Kentucky. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with WNK. In this video, what we're discussing is the storm potential for the weekend. However, it's a bit conditional, so let's dive into the details of what could happen, but what could also make the forecast bust. It's not a for sure thing, so let's go ahead and dive into the details on what to expect. If you do like the video, please be sure to drop a like on it at the bottom there. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, let's dive on in. So firstly, what I want to do is take a look at kind of the temperature outlook that we're looking at going ahead. I know there's been a little bit of a discussion on that. And there is kind of some ridging and a kind of a dome happening. Pretty cool air, seasonably cool, I should say. It's still not going to be cold out there, but seasonably cool air should move into the central United States, kind of reaching over toward our area, as you can kind of see on your screen, designated by the blue area. Out to our northwest and our southwest, a ridge of very warm air begins to move in down there, and that sets the stage for some storms to begin to ride the boundary of that. So the kind of the white line that you see between those areas is what we kind of refer to as the boundary. Also to note, up to our north here in Canada, a pretty impressive pocket of cooler than average temperatures should take place up there. So you can kind of start seeing some of the ridging happening on your screen here, and this will allow some storm activity to occur. Again, strength of those storms not yet determined, as well as if they're going to be severe, or if it's just rain showers, or if it's a whole bunch of nothing. But again, some pretty impressive levels of cold air for Canada. Pretty impressive levels of warm air for the Southwest. The Southwest can reach all the way up to 120 degrees a couple times throughout the next 10 days. Very, very impressive warm air. Not quite sure just yet. There is some signaling that that warm air should try to move its way over to the Kentucky side of things in about a couple of weeks. However, again, that's a couple of weeks down the road. Not 100% sure on that just yet. So just kind of keep an eye on it for now. But until then, those are kind of what the temperature profiles are setting up to be. In terms of this weekend's weather, a low pressure should develop somewhere across the Midwest and track its way east. Now, typically, when you go due south and east of that low pressure, you can get generally some strong to severe storms. The question that we have for Saturday specifically is, will storms be able to survive long enough to impact Kentucky? What are those impacts? And then for Sunday, there was a brief signal of some strong to severe weather possible for Sunday. However, the models have kind of backed out on that trend. So Sunday at this point looks to be okay. Maybe a few spotty showers, but nothing crazy there. The main focus on this video is going to be for Saturday. And again, as the low pressure gets right here and it's going to drag its way east, probably drop a little bit southeast as well, and kind of hover around that southern Indiana, southern Ohio, northern Kentucky area. Basically, where that low pressure decides to set up is super, super crucial. As you can see, just to the southwest of the low pressure, some storms do begin to spawn, and they should track to the east. But again, this model on this particular run has this low pressure dropping far south, typically further than we've seen the last few weeks. For example, for context, the low pressures that we had associated with the last few storms kind of rolled through central Indiana. This one is going to try to roll through, actually dive through Indiana, come down to Kentucky before it begins to pick its way out east and move out to the ocean. But more specifically, looking at what this could look like on radar, let's go ahead and pull up our composite reflectivity. Now, again, the model data hasn't been handling this system or, quite frankly, the last few systems very well. So, as always, you want to be checking back for updates just to make sure that nothing has changed. However, at this point, Saturday does look stormy, but it is conditional. What I mean by that is there will be a strong cap that tries to form over the environment. I'm trying to get this set up here for Saturday around 1 to 2 p.m. Storms should initiate out to southern Indiana. So storms should have to break that cap. When they do break the cap, one of two things could happen. They could be strong to severe and create a large hail and damaging wind gust threat, just like we've seen the last 4 or 5 times over the last 10 to 15 days. But there is a big question on if they'll be able to break that cap because there isn't a ton of shear in place. What I do real quickly is show you basically what I mean by that. So the winds above our head, for example, last Saturday and Sunday when we had all kinds of stormy and severe weather, they were kind of cranking. Let's say 35 to 45 mile per hour, which is nothing super impressive in terms of wanting to look for severe weather parameters. But it is enough to get the job done. For Saturday, the winds above our head, while they'll be cranking in a few different places, as you can see, they're not really Nothing's really there. Nothing's really there. I mean, we do see some cranking up there towards central Indiana. We do see some cranking back out here toward, let's say, Missouri-Kentucky border. And then as the storms kind of get going through, you see some kind of cranking around the Ohio River. But this might be behind the actual line of storms, so it may be a little bit too late. So what I'm basically trying to say here is, the cap has to be broken. But there's not a whole lot of something out there to force that cap to be broken. So I personally have doubts on whether or not storms will be able to break the cap. I do think a few strong to severe storms are possible, and the reason for that is the overall CAPE values. CAPE values are kind of, very layman terms, the measure of the surface level of energy. As we push this on forward through Saturday afternoon and evening, you can see we have really no problems when it comes to CAPE. CAPE values in the levels of near 2,000 are strong enough to support strong to severe thunderstorms. The only thing that I have to caution again is when we go to look at our mixed layer SIN map. Basically, this shows us convective inhibition. Layman terms, things that stop the storms from going and forming. When we look at this, when the storms are supposed to be coming through, you can kind of see it fades away for a minute and then it quickly tries to come back. So it's a lot like the last few storm systems, besides Sunday, I should say. Saturday, Friday, and Thursday of this past week, we saw storm activity. However, they had to break through the cap. Sunday, there really wasn't a cap in place. That's why we saw so much severe weather. But on Saturday, Friday, and Thursday, there was a decent level of cap in place, especially on Saturday where there was a very strong cap in place. So this kind of looks like that type of setup where, storms are definitely possible given the surface level of energy that we have. Given the placement of the low pressure, I think strong to severe storms are possible. However, I would caution that this may bust just because we are looking at pretty decent levels of convective inhibition. Basically, levels of convective inhibition that should stop storms from forming, or when they do form, begin to quickly weaken them as they track east. And that's kind of what the reflectivity shows us here. It kind of shows us that the storm should form out here to our west in Missouri and in Illinois around Saturday afternoon. And as they track their way east, that first line gets kind of punched out. And then they'll dive down to the central portions of Kentucky and the Ohio River, kind of where we saw the 850 millibar. Remember the winds above overhead, where we saw them a little bit higher. They do turn severe for a brief amount of time along the Ohio River. So there may be portions along northwest Kentucky that may have a brief severe weather threat. But as this drops further south and east, they kind of just get eroded by the cap. A few more showers do form down there toward eastern Kentucky by late Saturday night going into Sunday morning. However, again, not quite sure. So anyway, if you're asking me if storms are possible this weekend, they definitely are. However, I would caution before being too concerned with many of them, as again, that cap should help to erode them. We'll continue to update you as new updates unfold. I've been George Herbig, Chief Forecaster for WNK. I'll catch you guys in the next one.